we were all,
Yes, we were here, I know, sorry.
can we get a,
Copy of it, yes.
Copy of
I will
it?
have staff do that for you.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sacks?
Yeah, I just want to be sure, I know we received it, shall we say, this morning?
Yes.
Very early. So we've received it, and I want to make sure everybody else has a copy of it.
Yes, we will,
Maybe give it to everybody at
yes,
this
we will
time.
be making copies for everybody.
And I appreciate that you were
Yes.
working that late.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've just had a few conversations with staff. Thank you. Commissioner Flores is going to be my vice today. We will be beginning, once we get to the agenda item, we have to do our disclosures first, but once we get to the agenda item, the applicant will be going first. We have them for 45 minutes. That'll be followed by staff presentation. Of course, during any of this time, the board has the opportunity to interact, ask questions, cross-examine. We had a combined group from Arden HOA and Western Community Alliance, I believe it is, asked to have a combined presentation together. They requested 30 minutes. We will have that. I have asked staff, as people are filling out cards, anyone who is the representative of a group or organization who's requesting extra time, or someone who is a bona fide expert, to identify themselves. Commissioner Flores will be calling them first. After that, depending on the time, that may be the time when we break for lunch, and then we will move on to the public comment. It was publicly noticed. Everybody would get a minute and a half. I'm going to hold to that. Everyone will still get the minute and a half. Then we will proceed throughout the day. So I just wanted to let everyone know that's the order of events for the day. I will request decorum in the chambers, no clapping, booing, any outbursts. Please, we are here to listen and to get through this. So with that, we will have our disclosures. I'll start with Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. I had meetings with Susie Lozelle, Janice Ridnour, Rochelle Smith, Santiago Lantanazio, Sharon Merchant, Ernie Cox, Enrique Tomei, Steve Abrams, Brian Seymour. I have filed a multitude of correspondence with the clerk, and I have visited the site on many occasions. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had emails filed with the clerk. I have met with Steve Abrams, Enrique Tomei, Ernie Cox, Terry Dewey, Sharon Merchant, John Eubanks, Christina Reichert, Tatiana Yaquez, Janice Zello Ridnour, oh, same person, Santiago Montanu, Jamie Rodriguez, S. Burke, Colleen Hackett, Nick Arasi, Parag Matharia, Ben Brown, Terry Rizzo, and I have visited the site on July 9th, and no further, I don't believe further discussions other than maybe people randomly running into me, telling me yes or no on a data center.
Okay, I had verbal communications with John Eubanks, Christina Reichard, Janice Zolo Ridnour, Sharon Merchant, Ernie Cox, Enrico Tomei, Sue Loy-Zell, Jamie Rodriguez, Santiago Latanizo, Jessica Cassidy, Karen Marcus, Steve Abrams, Matt Prince, Dan Ferguson, Tara Dewey, Bob Schaefer, Nick Iarasi, Karen Brill, Brian Seymour, Cliff Hertz, Sam Wilcox, Ben Brown, and I reserve the right to add as this goes because I think there may be some names I'm missing. My staff spoke with Susan Brees. I have email correspondence filed with the clerk, and I did do a site visit. Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
I was adding as you were mentioning some names. I've had tons of written communication, which have been received and filed with the clerk. Verbal communication has been with Ernie Cox, Fergus Davidson, Enrique Tomeo, Steve Abrams. I added Cliff Hertz because at some point he was part of this. I've also met with some Arden residents, Daniel Jackson, Kathleen Williams, Nathan Galang, Rachel Smith, Sue Lizelle. And my staff met with Sharon Merchant. I will also reserve the right to add people if for some reason I may have missed them. And I just want to put this for the record. I think people got to realize that we're humans too, and you should not call an office and threatened, because we have received several nasty calls threatening staff and myself personally. So be respectful as you come up here. We are humans. We are gonna look at these on merit, but I think you have to be very respectful. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On this item, I've had verbal communication with Enrique Tomei, Christina Reichert, John Eubanks, Tatiana Yaquez, Janice Ridenour, Tara Dewey, Brian Seymour, Cliff Hertz, Ernie Cox, Steve Abrams, Sharon Merchant, Ben Brown, Dominique Reinecker, Mac Prince, Bob Schaefer. I have received email correspondence, been filed with the clerk, and I also had a site visit.
Commissioner Sacks?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On this Project Tango 215-00085, all email and mail correspondence have been filed with the clerk. Verbal communications, I've spoken with Steve Abrams, Enrique Tomei, Ernie Cox, Nikki Arosi, Sharon Merchant, Tatiana Yaquez, Christina Reichert, Ronaldo Diaz, Janice Zolo Ridenour, John Eubanks, Tata Dewey, Raymond Penuela, David Zita, Sam Young, and Benjamin Brown. I've also had a site visit. I've toured Central Park Commerce Center on February 12, 2026, and toured the Arden community on July 9th, 2026. Thank you.
Okay. 2 additions. Commissioner Flores?
Vice Mayor, I forgot to mention that I did have a site visit on May 12th. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Marino?
I'm going to reserve the right to add, because, going back, this has been in discussion for a very long time, so a lot of us up here have talked to a lot of people. For good measure, I'm going to add Cliff Hertz, because, yes, I think I talked to him months ago about this, and then I'll have, if there's any more, I will add. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to add Cliff Hertz. I may also add Brian Seymour. I see Brian Seymour all the time. I heard some people say him. I'm not sure if we talked about this. If we didn't, Brian, I'm sorry. But if we did, put Brian in there too.
Better to over-disclose, yes. Okay. I also wanted to let staff know, we usually stop taking cards. I'm sorry, Commissioner Weiss, did you?
Yeah, thank you. I also want to reserve, because I know I'm missing a couple of people. I'm a staff researching it right now.
Okay, yeah, I think we all may be adding names to our list before this is over. We usually stop taking cards when the agenda item starts. I have told staff if there's anyone in line right now that we will still collect their card, that they will be allowed to speak. But if you're not in line at this point, we're asking the applicant to come forward and begin their presentation.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. My name is Brian Seymour. I'm attorney for the applicant. With me today is Ethan Loeb. He's also an attorney for the applicant. Vice Mayor, before I begin, I know that the general rule on applicants is about 30 minutes. To be frank, with the if all we were going to talk about was the narrow scope of what legally we believe is, I believe as the lawyer, is the scope of this hearing, I probably could do that. But we have multitude of experts.
If I could, you asked me for 45, and I already agreed. Did you?
So I might go to an hour. We tried to shorten it. We wanted the
I'm not
big-
going to hold you to that firm. I'm sure
Okay.
there's going to be interaction to the board as well. It's 9:45 right now, so,
Okay.
and this clock won't actually let me put that on there, so we'll just have to watch the time.
I understand, and we will
Timer
do
on
what
now?
we can to.
Yeah.
Okay, the timer is on now.
The timer doesn't go to an hour or 45?
Maybe 45 minutes?
It won't go to 45.
Okay.
It goes to
Should we put a
15.
timer on, though? I would suggest.
I'm watching the clock. He started at 9:45 with,
We're
You're on.
going to do everything we can to move through this. To be honest, if every expert testified, we'd be here for about 3 hours. So we're trying to focus on the key issues that were brought up, particularly during the scope of the zoning commission. Of those experts, 2 of them are internationally renowned noise experts. One on the subspecialty related to low-frequency noise that you will probably hear about. So
you can
we're going
use
to
your
let
time
them get to
convincing
there.
me, or we can start
No,
moving
no,
forward.
I'm
I
just
wanna
giving
hear
a
what they have to
background.
say.
I'm not
Well,
convincing.
we
I'm
want to
just giving
hear.
you the background
Okay.
of where we are. I do have, for the record, the resumes and the CVs for all of the experts, as well as the reports, just as a little belt and suspenders. There's a lot of work done. I think they're all in the record already, but just for sure, I'd like to submit that to the clerk, so I'll just leave this here for right now. And so what I really want to start with is there's a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of discussion surrounding what's actually on today's agenda, and the square footages and the uses and the words and the terminology. And I want to sort of narrow that a little bit, because the phrase large-scale, hyperscale, AI data centers are used. Your code uses the phrase data and information processing. And so for the majority of what we're going to talk about data and information processing, which is a permitted use under your code. It is permitted on this site as a site that has an EDC land use with an MUPD, a multi-use plan development. And what's actually before you today is not the totality of the master plan. It is what's referred to as Phase 2, or the Phase 2 property, and you'll see that in the presentation that comes up. Within that Phase 2, what we're asking is to allocate existing permitted uses. Of those uses, the majority is a warehouse use. The use we're going to end up speaking about pretty much, I think, all day. Well, hopefully not all day, but certainly the thing we're going to talk about is the data and information processing use, or data center use, that people will use. That is 280,000 square feet. It is not 1 million square feet. It is not the whole site. It is not all of the use that's being proposed, and there are conditions that will guarantee that. There's a lot of conditions. One of those conditions is that the locations where those warehouses will go cannot be a data and information processing use. Those would remain warehouse. So I'm the lawyer, so I have to sort of lawyer that point a little bit, which is what we're really here for today. I understand that there's going to be discussions about chip changes. You can't regulate chips. You regulate use, you regulate impacts. And you're going to hear today that all of that was considered in great detail by world-renowned experts. And so what we're going to ask at the end of this is not to put a data center of millions of square feet, not hyperscaled, not anything else. We're going to ask you to allocate a permitted use, 2 permitted uses. 280,000 square feet of that would be the data and information processing use, and that's what we're going to talk about pursuant to the ULDC. We are also going to talk about those impacts. We are not unmindful of the concerns that have been raised. This has become, in this country, one of the biggest political issues. And when things become that political, we understand that that generates a lot of fear, a lot of concern. We're through what the facts are about this. This is not farmland. This is not conservation land. This is, you're going to see a heavy industrial use that exists on site, or uses that exist on site. And what we're actually going to put are some buildings with some computer parts in them, which sounds, I know, like I'm diminishing it. I'm not. Because we've, again, done all of the studies, The design of this is the most current design to make sure that the impacts are not there, and we are agreeing to a condition of approval specifically to noise. There's a condition that says we have to prove it. If you don't believe anything else, it almost doesn't matter. It does because we have the experts. But we are committed. We are so confident in these experts. We are agreeing to a condition of approval of a before and after noise study. And if we are not below the ambient, this is a broad scope, it's actually much more technical. But if we don't meet that condition that shows we're really below the ambient noise, that we're not going to have the impacts that are concerned of, we got to shut down. Billions of dollars at risk. And we're saying we'd have to shut down and mitigate that and make sure that we're doing that. And we're not asking you just to believe us. We're putting our money where our mouth is today. And so that's the framework with which we're going to go today. And there's a lot of history to this. This has been a decade. This was approved, actually, and you're going to hear more about this, in 2016 in that staff report. For 2016, the phrase large-scale data center was used. You're going to hear that. 1.2 million square feet of data and information processing was approved in 2017. It was changed back and more warehouse was added. What we're still here today is only about this phase 2 property. And the data and information processing use that is the grave concern of everybody is 280,000 square feet, and it is designed as well as any center could be designed to mitigate all of the concerns and of the impacts. And that's really what you're here for. And so with that, what I'd like to do is turn this over to Mr. Cox. You're all familiar with him. He has been the project manager on this and working on this property for over 17 years. He's going to go through some of the history, some of what's on the property, frame this up, and then we'll have our experts start going through as well. I appreciate the time this morning.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Ernie Cox. I'm the project manager for PBA Holdings, Inc. On the Project Tango site. First, just up on the screen, we've got the site itself, and the outlined in green is what Brian described as the Phase 2 property. I've got a little bit more detail later, but importantly, Southern Boulevard is to the south. Below Southern Boulevard is the South Florida Water Management District S5A pump station. That's a 6 diesel engined pump station, one of the largest in South Florida. To the right, of course, is Saddle View Elementary and the Arden community. The L8 Canal is the canal that you see running up through the middle. And then to the west, you see the Sugar substation that's owned and operated by Florida Power and Light. Then the West County Energy Center, and to the north of that is the Corbett substation. This is a recent drone aerial that we took from the south. And again, to just orient everybody, on the left-hand side are those substations. The West County Energy Facility is 3,750 megawatts of natural gas combined cycle generation. It is the largest natural gas plant in North America. And to the north of that, to the right, you see the L8 reservoir. And then to the right of that, you see the Arden community in the background to the east of the L8 Canal. The white area that you see in the middle is the area where we're proposing the warehouse use. And then in the front, you see the existing industrial uses that will be removed as part of this project, which include concrete plant and asphalt plant. A little bit closer up, again from the drone, where the asphalt plant is, which is in the foreground with the black stacks. Those are the silos that fill the asphalt trucks using the materials on site. That is where the data and information processing one-story buildings will be constructed. And then to the left of that is the concrete plant that also uses materials on site. The concrete plant location will be replaced with 3 concrete insulated buildings that will include the cooling equipment for the computers that will be inside the buildings in the front. This is, again, looking at a little bit closer up the West County Energy Facility. Also point out the 500 kV lines coming in the back. This is one of the most connected electrical pieces of property in South Florida. And it's got 500 kV lines coming in from north, south, east, and west. And then redundant substations, very important because of the redundant and resilient power. And then this is a closer up look of currently being used and has been for the past 6 years by Florida Power and Light for hardening the 500 kV lines. This is where the warehouses will go. Distances, as we've talked about this a lot, going from east to west. From the front of the school to the west of the road is 300 feet. And then that's about where the furthest west backyards of Arden occur. Then there's a 250-foot wide segment that's got a tall berm that was placed there when we dredged the L8 reservoir back in the early 2000s. And it was part of the original Arden design. As you know, I did the entitlements and approvals for Arden, and one of the things that was required was to have this buffer on the west side to buffer the industrial uses. So it was always part of that approval was to buffer it, and thankfully it's growing in very nicely. You got the buffer. And then, wait, did I lose my, back to the distance. Then there is the L8 canal right-of-way, that's 500 feet owned by the Water Management District. Then there's an additional 400 feet. Significantly on the south end of the property, where these 3 data and information processing buildings will go, that berm is actually higher and already vegetated, and you can see that. And so if you stand on the road at the school, you cannot see anything except the very top of the asphalt plant and concrete plant smoke stacks. Those will go away. And then there's an 850-foot distance between that 400-foot property, which is where staff has added a condition that that property cannot have data and information processing. That's where the warehouses will go, and we are in agreement with that condition. Little bit of project history. Brian mentioned it before, but the original comprehensive plan and zoning was done, started 2014, 2015, 2016, which approved the uses on this property with the square footage to be allocated through future site plan applications. In 2017, site plan was approved by DRO with 1.2 million square feet of data and information processing in phase 1. That was then amended, and we switched out some of the data and information processing from phase 1 into warehouse in phase 1, again leaving the full square footage for phase 2. In January of 2025, I was before you with a comprehensive plan and MUPD amendment to add the land up front, the additional 64 acres. And then, as Brian said, here on the screen are the numbers we're here today, asking to allocate an additional 280,000 square feet of data and information processing, 148,000 square feet of minor utility, that's the cooling equipment inside the concrete insulated building, and 1,146,564 square feet of warehouse. This is the current approved master plan from April of 2025. It shows in the front the site plans for the asphalt plant and concrete plant. This is the proposed site plan, proposed master plan that's here today, which will remove the asphalt plant and concrete plant. These are the changes that have been made. I've already gone through the square footage. These are detailed in the staff report. We've also, since December, done a lot of work with moving the buildings to the west, particularly data and information processing, putting cooling equipment inside the buildings, and then multiple studies which are all in the record, but we're going to bring up a few of the experts, with the primary concerns being sound and low frequency sound potential impacts. Just one thing on valuation and projected tax revenue. There's been some question as to what this project will be at build-out, which we anticipate to be in 6 to 7 years. This will be a $34.5 billion asset. Most of that is equipment and computers. and that'll generate at build-out $561 million in tax revenue. These are just a few of the allocations. The allocations are detailed in the tax bill. Some goes to the sheriff, some goes to the school, some goes to the county. And so just wanted to get that information before you. At this point, I'd like to ask our project engineer to talk about water, Jimmy Ritchie.
Morning, Madam Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is James Ritchie. I'm a professional civil engineer with WGI, a member of the Florida Engineering Society, as well as active in my community in Royal Palm Beach and at Life Church. I've been with WGI and working in Palm Beach County now for 24 years, and I've worked on many projects with water-related issues. The proposal today, particularly with the conditions that are on the allocated uses, require of an estimated 100,000 gallons per day on average. We've reviewed the information with Palm Beach County Water Utilities Department, and we've spoken about my estimate, and they've been reviewed by the county staff. We've coordinated the needs with Palm Beach County Water, the 100,000 gallons per day on average maximum use, and this will be documented in Palm Beach County Water Utilities concurrency letter. So as you can see here, the uses require approximately 1,696 gallons per day for the data and information processing proposed in Phase 2. The warehouse use proposed in Phase 2 is approximately 50,601 gallons per day on average. This is estimated on approximately 9 gallons per human being in the data information processing. These are the employees on staff that will use water for hand washing, toilets, and the like during the normal day. Compare this to a single-family home, which has an equivalent residential connection as termed by Palm Beach County Water of approximately 270 gallons per day. The proposed use of data information processing is the equivalent of less than approximately 7 single-family homes, as proposed in this Phase 2 use. And furthermore, the cooling system proposed, as Mr. Fergus Davidson will speak to, is a closed-loop system. It does not draw water on a daily use. It is filled and tested and commissioned. And the uses that were approved in 2016, had they been built at the time, likely would have used an evaporative cooling system, which does require daily water use. Again, this proposed closed-loop system does not require daily water use. So, as you can see, we are proposing a use here that is relatively minor in uses, and you can compare it to something similar, such as a small restaurant, or as we've mentioned, just a few single-family homes for the data and information processing. And that is, that's all regarding water use.
One moment, Commissioner Powell has a question.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
This closed-loop water system, is it in place? Because I know in the report it indicates that, I think it was less than 5,000 gallons per day. Maybe I'm missing it somewhere. But is there?
Yes, Mr. Davidson can answer that in probably much more detail than I. But a closed-loop cooling system, everybody probably drove in here one today, except for those folks that might be driving a battery-operated vehicle. Your car, its cooling system is a closed-loop system. You fill it up with coolant, you close the cap, you run the system. You don't add water to it every day. Maybe back in the 70s, we used to add water to the cooling system all the time because they were probably not as efficient and needed it. But now a closed-loop system is in your vehicle. That's probably the simplest and easiest example I can give you.
Thank you. Is that technology being used in any other?
Yeah, we'll defer that to Mr. Davidson.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One moment, Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, as an expert for testifying here today. So you really don't need the large aquifer that sits outside by the aggregates, do you? Because you have a closed system, you could build this for 1,696 gallons per day for a data and information processing. You could put that along with the warehouses just about anywhere because you're using a closed system.
Correct, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, we will
So
draw
you
no
don't-
water from the nearby.
So you don't
aquifer.
need to be close to the large aquifer that sits there at aggregates.
That is not a question within my expertise. We'll have to defer that to our project manager. and
Actually, it
owners.
is. Excuse me, sir. You're a water expert,
Yes, ma'am.
and you just testified that this is a closed system like in a gas combustion vehicle.
The coolant system
All
for the
right.
data information processing is a closed system, yes, ma'am.
So in a closed system, you don't need to use, there's a large aquifer. About how many gallons is in that aquifer today at Palm Beach Aggregates?
In the L8 reservoir north of the site,
No, the big, large aquifer, not the canal.
the aquifer, like the Floridan aquifer, thousands of feet beneath the ground. The water that we are using will be from Palm Beach County Water's utility system.
So
Just-
will not, oh, that's great. So you will not need to use, you do not need to have this data information processing center there at Palm Beach Aggregates to use the water that sits there today.
Correct, yes. Palm
Okay,
Beach-
so you could put this, because of the water usage that you testified to, you could have it just about anywhere because you're using Palm Beach County water.
Their system is countywide, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powell, do you want Mr. Davids to answer more on the closed-loop system now? He wasn't going to otherwise, so he can answer questions on it, but we'll try to tighten the time, but I'm happy to have him answer
No,
that question.
it's fine to tighten the time. My only question was, and I don't think I have a clear answer yet, is if there is a data or information processing center that
Using the closed-loop system.
uses this today. That's an example that in any other place that's using this system today. And it's yes or no, maybe.
Yeah, good morning. Hi, my name's Fergus Davidson. I'm kind of project director for overseeing the design team. I'm a mechanical engineer by training and a chartered engineer with the Institute of Mechanical Engineers. I've been working in data center industry for about 15 years now. Okay. So good question around the closed loop cooling system. This is something that's kind of widely spread and adopted within the data center industry at the moment as the primary cooling topology. As my colleague James mentioned, it's a closed loop sealed pipework system that circulates cooling water around the condenser side of the water-cooled chiller and up into the dry coolers, which are positioned on the roof. So there is no water loss from the system and water consumption due to evaporation. In terms of example projects, a lot of data center developers are transitioning away from evaporative cooling technologies and systems that use cooling towers due to their sustainability policies. Those companies are Google, Meta, AWS, that they've made public corporate sustainability statements around the adoption of closed-loop cooling systems.
Thank you for that. And I don't mean to, and I don't mean to continue to ask the question in a manner. I know you said, I understand your expertise and I understand exactly what you're saying a closed loop system is. And I'm looking for clarity.
Sure.
And am I the only one not understanding? The clarity was, and I'm not trying to be aggressive or angry, is it being used anywhere else? You've indicated that this is a system that many data centers are switching to. You've indicated that as a closed-loop system and exactly what a closed-loop system is. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to find clarity as to if this is being used in, I know I looked at the news this morning, New York has banned data centers. But if you can say, Commissioner Powell, absolutely, this is a closed-loop system is being used in Michigan right now. That's all I'm looking for,
Yeah.
and I think I'm missing it, and it might be me.
Commissioner Powell,
because I'll take full responsibility.
Yeah, there are hundreds of data centers within the US that are adopting closed-loop cooling systems, either through air-cooled chillers and/or in this project we're actually using a dry cooler because it has better acoustic properties. So, yep,
So they're in use right now.
100%.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores?
So you use the word adopting. Adopting means that it's underway.
In construction, so there are
So they're in
projects that are in
construction, they're not
operation.
actively being
No,
used.
there are projects that are in operation and in construction. at the
Where
moment.
are they in operation right now?
They're throughout the US.
The crowd, please. We have a long day ahead of us, so we gotta stay calm.
But I'm under NDA from my clients.
Could say a city.
Phoenix, Arizona would be a classic example where there is limited and restrictions on water use, and they are using closed-loop cooling technologies for data center development
But
that are
you
in
have to-
operation and in construction at the moment.
You have to understand this from our side.
Sure.
You are saying to us that the technology has changed. That a data center is not what it used to be. That has come out of your side. So my question to you is, how is this, what you're proposing here today, different that old technology in relation to water?
So my comment was actually the cooling technology has changed. So, 10, 15 years ago, the data centers would be using evaporative cooling technology, i.e. a cooling tower that is cooling the cooling water through evaporation, which has a high water use and an environmental impact from water use. A lot of data center developers have shifted their corporate sustainability approach to minimize their water use. And through that, they have adopted closed-loop cooling systems that are using either air-cooled chillers and/or dry coolers, which this project is using. And those projects are in construction and in operation again in Nevada and in Arizona.
Here on your slide, you have that the warehouse is going to utilize more water than the data processing center. Why is that?
For the data information and processing, because there is no water use in the cooling process, the only water use associated within the building is in the welfare facilities, the toilets, the wash hand basins, the kitchen areas.
Okay, so you're saying that the toilets and stuff are going to use more water than this?
No, I'm saying, sorry, apologies if I wasn't clear. I'm saying that the cooling system is not consuming water as part of its cooling process. So the water use within the data and information processing part of the facility is only associated with the welfare facilities, so the toilets, the wash hand basins, and the kitchen areas.
And that closed system, that cooling system, is on the data information or in the entire thing?
The cooling system I'm talking about is on the data and information processing.
So on the 1,696 gallons per day?
So I think what you're asking, Commissioner, because it gets hyper-technical, and I'm dumb enough, I think I can
Thank you.
could
Dumb it
put
down
this
for
into
me.
some English. And if I'm wrong, you tell me, but I think what I'm hearing, the water use every day comes from the human beings. So there's about 600 employees that are on site at the data information processing use. The warehouse has more people, and so the warehouse generates more people using the bathrooms, et cetera. And so that's what it is. So every single day when they're pulling the water from the Palm Beach County Water Utility System, it's only based on humans. And because of the size being much smaller and the number of people being far fewer, the data and information processing use is so much less per day than you'd have for the warehouse use.
Okay, so in the closed system that you have, how much water is going to be inside of that system?
So the system, once it's there, daily is they don't pull, so it gets filled, and it's about 650,000. It's about 650,000 gallons that basically rotates.
600, how much?
650,000,
600
which is, so by way of comparison.
gallons of water.
Yes, but not daily, one time and then it rotates and
Right.
circulates.
So this was the example was used that this is kind of like your vehicle. We use this type of system in our vehicles every day. I flush out my car I think maintenance is every 2-3 years
So that,
to do your radiator flush and all. What happens with 650,000 gallons of flushing a system?
had the same question, and it doesn't, and I can't explain why because I don't know, but that he could explain in technical detail.
All right.
Yeah, so, the system doesn't need to get drained every 2 to 3 years. The water, initial fill that goes into the system is retained in the system and recirculated.
It
does
doesn't
not
need to, right?
Yeah.
But what happens if something happens?
If something happens, so the system is arranged.
And it has to be flushed out.
Yeah, okay, so if there's kind of a planned renovation of the project, the system has local isolation valves that allow the system to be isolated, drained into a container, and that water to be taken around from site. You do not need to drain the full 650,000 gallons.
And we have data on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's standard as part of any construction planning for a retrofit.
And once that water is contaminated, what happens to it?
What do you mean by contaminated?
Well, it goes through a cooling system. It's interacting with other particles. And I know in our water systems right now, we're talking about PFAS in our water system. So I'm assuming that this adds something to that water. So are you discarding this water once you take it out of the system, or are you putting it right back in?
Yeah, so in the event of a planned renovation or part changes within the building, the local system would be isolated for the change is going to happen. That water would be drained into a container and can be taken away and discharged from site. Would not be discharged down to the public sewer.
Since you're a water expert, I don't care where the water goes to. How does the water get cleaned up so it doesn't end up underground? How is it going to be disposed of? It's contaminated water. I don't care whether it's here, Japan. I don't care. Like whatever part of the country that water ends up at, how do we clean that water up so that it goes back to being a clean water, I guess?
Yeah, so we have a different expert who can answer that question.
Thank
the
you.
system itself is Mr. Davids, but we have Chris Olson. Dr. Olson is an expert who can talk about that circumstance if that were to happen.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Chris Olson. I have a PhD in Environmental Health Sciences. I've been a consultant for over 25 years, working in environmental health consulting. I also teach at the University of Toronto graduate courses in public health and at the Dalai Lama School of Public Health. Worked extensively in Florida on various issues over the years, and now data centers. Commissioner Flores, to your question, if the system's drained, right, so as Fergus was explaining, it gets drained in a container or a pumper truck to take off site. Florida DEQ has, or the Department of Environmental Quality has restrictions on how that water would be disposed of. So depending on what's in the water, there tends to be water glycol mix, right? And that water has to be properly disposed of and treated. So whether it was to go to the wastewater treatment plant, whether it's to go to another type of facility that's capable and registered to handle that water, it would not just be disposed of, as Fergus was saying, just down the drain. It would have to be properly disposed of in accordance with Florida law and DEQ requirements. Oftentimes that water would be tested, for example, to confirm that there are no additional contaminants. There will be no PFAS, so that there will be no fluoric acids in this system. But again, regardless, the city can take solace in the fact that the DEQ governs that, and there's very tight restrictions on how to dispose of water and taking it off-site.
How much evaporation occurs in that cooling system?
All right, now I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Davidson.
How much evaporation percentage do you lose per year out of that 650,000?
Outside of planned shutdowns and remedial works, you mean just through kind of
No,
normal?
I'm just saying that I'm assuming if it's a cooling system, that it's extremely hot temperatures that you're trying to cool down, there's some sort of evaporation that occurs in that, no?
No, it's a sealed system, so it's a sealed pressurized pipework system. So
Okay, so
there's
then there's
no
there-
system losses.
You're not gonna be adding more water annually.
It's-
What happened?
I would really appreciate if the folks that are out there stop with the machinations and everything else. It's really distracting.
Okay, so.
Yeah, sorry, it's
what you-
system
What you
operation.
just said is that there was no evaporation.
Correct.
Loss at all.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sacks?
Stay up there a little bit, sir. 650,000 gallons of water you get from our county water, and I saw Mr. Bayat here, who's the head of Palm Beach County. So you buy county water, you use it in a closed system, and it's a lot of toilets you must have in that warehouse, that 50,000 gallons a day that's being flushed through the warehouses. What's going on in the warehouses that they have to use the bathroom so much? Is that the other guy, Mr. Seymour?
So it's actually, the warehouses were designed by the engineer for the contract purchaser and utilized because we're dealing with the data information processing. I want to put the 650,000 in context, if I might. Project Niagara, which is the water bottling plant that's out at the Park of Commerce, uses approximately 1 million gallons of water every day. Every day.
But you're talking, sir, about 200 single-family homes.
no, no,
Just one second. So you can find, I just want to know, because I think this line that Commissioner Flores has started is important. Water is very important, and I know that you want to be by Palm Beach aggregates, I thought, because of the aquifer there.
No, ma'am.
But that's not right. You could be in Union County or Dixie County or Hendry County, because you're going to have this, you're going to buy 650,000 gallons of water from the county or whatever county it may be. Doesn't have to be Palm Beach. And you're going to use that in a closed system. My question is that correct? Am I correct on this? I mean, I'm not an expert.
So-
Neither are you, but
So,
are
well-
we saying, just a minute, are we saying that correctly?
No.
Okay, tell me, we are not going to purchase,
So that's
That- wait.
not what you, there was a lot in there. What I mean is not correct, Commissioner, is I don't know that I can go to Hendry County because I don't know their water. What we know is that Palm Beach County Water Utilities, and your director's here, as you said, like, so he can certainly speak to this.
no, I know.
We know that Palm Beach County Water Utilities has the water. That's been evaluated by your Water Utilities Department. It's been evaluated by your staff.
Well, let's say
and the
we find a county that we have excellent water. We have the #1 quality water in the state. However, there may be another county that has pretty darn good water, which could be the same type of water that you're going to use to cool the system there in this closed system. So I just want to be sure that I understand that you're starting out with an aquifer that's there at aggregates. You're starting with a 650,000 gallons of water, and that could be, I mean, it has to be clean water. It can't be brackish or salt water, right?
Correct.
Right? Okay, it has to be clean water. So that could be from any county. You could use that water and just recycle it. And when it gets contaminated, you've got an expert here who's going to tell us that it'll be disposed of properly. And I believe that. What I'm just looking at is, what are you doing with all this water in a warehouse that you say is for toilets and washing their hands per day?
You're conflating the issue a little bit, Commissioner. There's two different sets of, let's call it sets of water. There is the closed loop water system that gets filled and is not drawing water anymore because that closed
Correct.
loop, right, circulates. And then separately from that,
So let's take this, because you and I are not experts on it. We're just lawyers.
I have spent
So
a lot of time with the experts, boy, let me
Okay,
tell
good.
you.
Then you can
So
help
I
me
do
out
know
here.
some of these answers from them, but if you want the detail, I'm happy to bring them up.
The 650,000 gallons of water, is that the water that is going to be recycled that you're talking about?
It's circulated.
So-
Recycled
well, I'm
isn't the
sorry,
right word, but yes, circulated.
I like recycle because it sounds environmentally good.
Well, it's actually far more environmentally sound and friendly than the evaporative cooling system that used to be used that you heard about, right? Which drew water every single day. Every day that water was
We're
coming
using
in.
a closed system.
Doesn't happen
To
anymore.
reuse, can we call it reuse water?
Because those are all technical terms, technically not, but yes, it's reused in that sense that you mean.
So that 650,000 gallons of water is going to be used in this closed system. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
right? Okay, good. All right. What was the second part?
So
of what
that
you're
is
talking-
separate from what you see up there. The code, the regulations that we look at from the daily water use is what Mr. Ritchie was talking about. So completely separate, once the closed loop system is filled, the only water that comes daily now is for the human beings. There are fewer humans inside the data and information processing that are using the bathroom, washing their hands. It's a much smaller facility. You'll have fewer employees there. And then the warehouse, and this is all based on engineering, obviously, right? And again, your staff went through all this. The warehouse, because of the way the warehouse operates versus the way the data
Cooling
and information
system works,
processing
right.
operates, the way that the people are, how many people work in a warehouse versus that would work in a, like those, you know, they're different jobs or different types, obviously, as well. But there's far more just pure human beings, more bodies inside that warehouse is going to generate more of that daily water use.
Now
And
that-
that's
that-
why that's separated from
From the
system.
650,000. So the 50,601 gallons per day in the warehouse is separate from the 650,000 gallons that it's going to be recycled. Where is that water coming from, that 50,000? That's county water, right?
That is also coming from Palm Beach County Water Utilities.
Okay, and my question goes back, and I don't want to be sarcastic, but that's a lot of toilets every day. 50,000 gallons of washing your hands. How many people are in there, and what are they doing?
So I don't have those numbers, Commissioner. None of us on our team do because we're not the designers of the warehouse. What I can only tell you is that the way the engineering, and Water Utilities can answer that question probably.
No, but you are saying to us, you're going to have a warehouse.
I
And you're going to have
understand.
50,000 gallons of water used per day by people.
That's how the engineers have done their analysis.
How many people
based
are in
on-
there? Do you know, Mr. Seymour?
I do not.
Okay,
Because
thank
that
you.
was given
That's
to us
it.
by the contract purchaser.
That's okay, thank you.
Commissioner Marino?
So in the Data and Information Center earlier on, you said 600 staffers. What are the shifts and how many shifts are there?
I'm going to confirm, I think I know, but I want to make 100% sure. So it's 3 shifts with 200 people at each shift.
Okay, and in total for the project, the way you're bringing it to us now, you're talking about 100,000 gallons per day, is that correct? I'm not talking about the 650,000 because that's a one-time deal and that stays in a closed-loop system. The project you're bringing us today is how many gallons per day?
The total is today for this, the allocation we're asking for today is about 52,000.
Okay, and with the warehouses?
With what's already approved, that would generate the other approximately
Total of
50,000.
But I thought that we're talking about 100,000 a day.
So this is where things have gotten very confused. There is an existing approved site plan. There's
Okay.
an existing approved plan that was based on approvals on the master plan that was, the master plans exists, right? So that site plan, if you take that, in addition to what we're asking today, the total comes out to about 100,000 gallons per day.
Okay, and
But that's both pieces, what's already approved and what we're asking to allocate today.
okay, so for relativity, what does Arden, the community of Arden, use per day?
So doing the math, right, if, I think it's, how many homes? So Mr. Ritchie's just said it's, Arden uses about 500,000 gallons of water per day.
Wow. So, well, Ali, you're here. Can you answer that question? Since we have people in the audience that don't seem to like the answer. And identify yourself, please. Sorry.
Morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Abruzzo. So the question is on how much Arden is
Please
using?
identify yourself, just for the
Ali Bayard, Palm Beach County Water Utilities Department Director. So
On
there
a
are
daily basis, how much does Arden use in the way of water?
400,000 to 500,000 gallons per day,
Potable water?
potable water.
Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
400,000 to 500,000 gallons per day Arden uses, and this is, when this is finally built, it'll be, can I go back? I'm not as confused as I look, I promise.
It's your meeting. I defer to the vice mayor.
Just so you know, I'm treating this as a FIFA World Cup. I'm keeping track. You get 20 extra minutes right now.
Can
So
we be Argentina?
Go ahead and fall down. Let me see it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We're talking about phasing on this project. So there's phase 1, phase 2. When the overall project, in the comp plan, how many square feet was this plan approved for in the overall comp plan when it was first approved? Not in phasing, but in total.
So I'm sure that other people have the exact number to the square foot, but it's over 3 million. I think it's 3.3 million square feet of EDC uses tied to a traffic concurrency. So the key was, you're not going to go above X trips. And I'm certainly not going to start talking about how traffic concurrency works either, because Quasi's here. But the uses were tied to that. That's why there's a traffic study that's in this to do that equivalency. But that comprehensive plan had about 3.3 million, what they call the EDC uses, based on a traffic study that was done at that time. And so long as we're within those trips, then the EDC uses are allowed. One of those EDC uses is warehouse. Another one is data information and processing.
So phase 1, which was 2017, was
And then
approved for
amended thereafter.
1.2,
So
roughly?
yes, it was amended thereafter a little bit because at that point in 2017, it was 1.2 million just data information processing in phase 1. That was modified so that the data information processing went down and the warehouse use was put in. But yes, that's roughly how that works.
And so in that equation, what are you asking for today?
That's already there. We're not asking for anything for that today.
Are we in phase 2 now?
So the phase 2 property is the property that was outlined in green that Mr. Cox showed. That's what we're asking to allocate the specific uses on the master plan today.
But you're not asking, so you're talking about specific uses. You're not asking for any additional square footage that hasn't already been approved?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay. And oh, by the way, we love Google. There is a closed loop system in Phoenix, and I think Microsoft uses it, I think was referenced. But anyway, Google is an amazing thing. Thank you.
Okay, there are no more lights. Please continue.
So our next witness is our land planner, Lindsay Libis with WGI. I think she's gotten up and down a few times, but now she's ready.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. My name is Lindsay Libis. I'm an AICP certified planner and vice president at WGI. WGI is a full-service planning and engineering firm, and I oversee the planning practice and the land development practice at the firm. I have reviewed the project, the history, the application and supporting documents, and the ULDC, and I'm familiar with the property and the project. The presentation I'm going to have before you right now is going to focus on the ULDC. And as Mr. Seymour mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, we're before you today to request permitted uses be allocated to a master plan. We're fully compliant with ULDC standards. Let me go back. So in regards to the master plan, the area you'll see shaded here in green, that's what's before you today. That's what we will refer to as phase 2 of the master plan. This stays in the exact same configuration. There are no modifications to the master plan boundaries as part of our request. This area was always intended for future phases. We always anticipated that. The only difference is when this was originally approved, the area in green was not part of the master plan. Adding this additional phase allowed for greater flexibility. It allows us to design the project, which you'll see throughout the presentation. We have conditions of approval that the applicant has agreed to that only relate to this. The additional land area allows us to design this project in a way that maintains the compatibility with the neighbors. Like I said, the conditions of approval only apply to this green shaded area. What we're asking for today is the allocation of 280,000 square feet of data and information processing, 148,000 square feet of minor utility, and 1,146,564 square feet of warehouse.
Commissioner Weiss, did you?
Do you have this on a slide? Or either that or come back and read that more slowly?
I can read that more slowly for you.
Thank you. I'd like to take notes.
Got it. We're asking for the allocation of permitted uses to Phase 2, the area in green. 280,000 square feet of data and information processing. 148,000 square feet of minor utility. And 1,146,564 square feet of warehouse.
Thank you.
In addition to.
As part of the approved master plan. No.
Vice
This
Mayor?
is this application.
Yeah. Vice Mayor?
Commissioner Sachs?
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at your application for the revisions to the request on April 27, 2026, and it's indicating different numbers than what you're stating today. So do you have a slide? And I agree with Commissioner Weiss. You don't have a slide as to these numbers. Yes or no? I can't hear you.
So
No, just a minute, Mr. Seymour. Do you have a slide?
No, ma'am.
You do not have a slide.
on the full
Okay.
numbers, that was where there was a confusion. So those numbers are the full site because the master plan is the full site. Everybody got very confused about that, Commissioner.
Who's
because
got confused? I'm confused right now because
I
don't have these
understand,
numbers.
and I'm trying to help with that as I
Okay,
can. Because what started happening was that the conversation became, the commission is being asked to approve the whole master plan. Because the numbers, the way the code was, and what the application needed, and Wendy can walk through this, was the totality of the master plan gets updated. But if all you talk about is those numbers, then we start getting into the conversation that I had with Commissioner Marino about, well, is it 100,000 or is it 50,000? And today, and that's what we wanted to focus on today, the stuff that's approved, while it has to be shown on the master plan, is not on the agenda for today. And that's why Ms. Libis is focusing on the today question, because what's already there is already there. And it's already approved and is not being proposed to be modified, added to, or changed in any way. And so we didn't want there to be confusion that you are approving a master plan of stuff that's already approved. So that's why there's the difference between what's required in the application and the explanation of what's actually on the agenda.
I appreciate that. Just a second, no, go away. Because what was approved before, you're going to show us. Because that's not before. It's already been approved 2016. What you're saying today is that you're adding additional square footage. What I want to know is, what is the additional square footage? Because I'm seeing different square footage and different exhibits that were presented by your application. So if you can make it very clear.
Yes.
And looking at that today, my eyesight's pretty good, but it's not that good. So.
I understand
So,
that
Mr.
those
Seymour,
plans
you
are very
could-
detailed.
Yeah.
So
give us the 2016 square footage that's already been approved. But today, what I want to see is specifically what it is that you are asking for.
Yes, ma'am.
today. Is that fair?
and that is what we're trying to do.
Okay, no, you don't need to try to do it, you need to do it.
Well, so the reason we have only talked about the numbers we've talked about today is because we are only talking about what we're asking to be allocated. And I
That's
want to be
correct.
clear.
I understand that.
You know me as a lawyer, Commissioner, I can't help myself.
Clear as mud, I just want-
Allocation and
Right.
approved are not the same thing. The
I
square
understand.
footage is approved. It's being allocated to the Phase 2 property, and that's why we're only talking about those numbers. So that's why when you see data and information processing, it's 280,000 square feet, because that's all we're asking today. The master plan will have more on it because that's how the master plan works. But today, that's why we focused on those. So every number we're talking about, and Ms. Libis was talking about, is for that. The only difference to that is the noise propagation studies, because they have to assume, much like a traffic study, existing approved.
Do you have a slide that you could show us about what the numbers you're talking about?
Yes.
Good. That'll take care of it. Thank you, sir.
Is it back? Is it yours?
It's my side.
Trying to find the back button. I know, I'm working it. So if you look on the bottom of that slide, Commissioner, that's up there now, where it says today, that's what we're asking. It's the development order amendment to allocate that square footage. And again, we're focused on the data information processing because that's the concerns that everybody has raised. The totality of what's being allocated is what's there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hold on. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Brian is in the midst of doing, and the slide has been added that will be helpful because like Senator Sachs, Commissioner Sachs, I was looking at the application, and the underlying version provided by staff indicates 2,346,564 square feet of warehouse, 1,032 square feet of data and information processing center, and then 216,000 square feet of minor utility use. So what you're saying to us is what we need to do is subtract 1,032,000 square feet. We would subtract 280,000 from that. That would show us that we currently have 980, I think it was in here somewhere, but that would be the number that's approved currently. You're asking for an additional 280,000 square feet, which would be subtracted from the 1,032,000 overall that's provided in the master plan. Is that clear? Or is that not
Mostly.
clear?
And again, I apologize for this, but I want a very clear record. There's a court reporter sitting here. So I want the record, we are not asking to add anything. We are asking to allocate a permitted use, and I know I'm being a bit pedantic and a bit of a pain on that. I apologize, but I want to be really clear about that because that's part of the confusion as well. But yes, there's approved and proposed, and when you combine that, you get to the total on the master plan.
Thank you for that, because I understand that what's approved on the master plan already, from my understanding, the allocation is what the issue is. So we had talked about perhaps even the ability to administratively, if we were to approve uses today, and what it has in front of me is the request is to add square footage and modify phasing on 202.67 acres, which is EDC, Economic Development Center, MUPD, and also the request to allow reduction in parking calculation for the data and information processing. I just want to be clear that whatever we approve today, it's my understanding that eventually there could be administrative changes to the uses on the master plan or the site plan if we were to approve these numbers today. Am I wrong or correct?
So there can be within limitations. And because of that, staff has proposed a condition that there be no conversion to a data and information processing use within 850 feet of the property line. And Mr. Cox showed you, I can pull it back up if you want, but he showed you that 850 feet. That's where the allocated warehouse would go. And then that cannot be a data and information processing use. Now, if we were at DRO without coming here, that condition might not have existed. It does today. We agree to that no matter what. So that's the assurance that you get on a future administrative change not occurring for the warehouses that are proposed today. It does not have anything to do with anything that was previously approved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marino?
I'm going to be redundant. The comp plan, which was determined many, many years ago, gave this property almost 3.6 million square feet of whatever. Correct?
EDC uses. They
Okay.
have to be the uses permitted by the EDC land use.
All you're doing here today is allocating a percentage of that 3.6 million square feet of EDC uses. Is that correct? There's no additional square footage being added
That is
from the
correct.
comp plan?
That is correct.
Okay. Is that clear? Everybody okay with that?
There's no square footage being added for the land use amendment, but for the master plan that's before you, they are adding square footage. They're adding 1.5 million square feet. They're only approved for 2,020,000 square feet of EDC uses. This request is to add 1.5 ... million square feet to this overall MUPD.
I need clarity on that because I don't,
So it's a terminology that Wendy and I have a difference on, because the 3.3+ million is the 3+ million. So the master plan does not have numbers on it that equate to that total.
That is incorrect. That is why we are here today. This application is to add square footage. It's on the very first page of the staff report. They are approved for 2,020,000 square feet of EDC uses. They are asking for another 1.5 million square feet.
Wendy, sorry, it says here, they're asking for the request submitted and proposed, okay, that's October 25th, the master plan. It says add square footage, and I see, I'm looking for the 1.5, but I do see the 1,672,000 square feet. And that's been changed since then?
Yes, their
Okay.
original request was, and I'm rounding, okay, so 1.6 million was as of up to through December. They postponed the application. They revised their request and reduced it down roughly 98,000 square feet to get to the 1.5 million square feet that they're requesting to add to the overall master plan.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores? Was that all for you, Commissioner Marino?
Attorney Seymour, you're shaking your head.
So I'm not going to spend the day arguing a terminology. That's fine. I understand. The point being that the master plan today does not have the 1.5 million on it. We agree with that. It does not say the split between the warehouse and data information processing. Allocate. I call that an allocation because I look at it as a permitted use by code. Adding is the terminology used. I don't think that's the point. Because when we get down to the substance, again, as I started with what's being regulated and the impacts and what we're actually talking about today, the numbers don't change, which is 280,000 and 148,000 and 1.1 million.
I'm done. Thank you.
Before I go to you, Commissioner Flores, are you in agreement with what he just said? Or are we still having?
No, we're adding square footage, so that's what we're doing.
Okay, Commissioner Flores?
So I want to say this so that everybody hears this, because I think this is where a lot of misinformation out in the community is. In 2016, this was approved for how many square footage again? You said it was
So
two?
the master plan had, the land use had square footages and trip conditions of approval added to it. The concurrent zoning application that went along with that, which site planned it and added the concurrency, was for 2,020,000 square feet, which was less than what the land use had in the conditions of approval.
Okay, so what was approved was 2,020,000 square footage total.
Total.
And out of that, how much was data, information, whatever we called it at that time?
Originally in 2016, they had allotted 1,200,000 for data information and processing.
So 1.2 million.
Right.
Square foot.
But since that time, it has reduced.
It has reduced. And what
Yes.
is it now, today?
The current site plan that's approved with a development order for this site is 1,200,000 square feet of warehouse and 206,000 of data information and processing. The remainder, and when you add those two numbers up, it will not equate to 2,020,000. The remainder, 614, is for a future phase. So that is still on the master plan. It still totals 220,000 square feet. It's just what's site planned right now with the development order is 1,200,000 square feet of warehouse and 206,000 square feet of data information and processing.
So what you're saying, what they're currently approved today is 206,000 square foot?
Correct.
Okay. So anything above that, those numbers, is what we're here for today, correct?
Anything above the 2,020,000 is what we're here for today.
Okay.
Yes.
Already in the books, a data center, as we phrase it, has already been approved.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. So you said 2016 was the original part, and then it was changed. When was that change made?
The most recent site plan for that showing the 206,000 was in 2021.
2021. Okay, and this is for the entire MUPD or just this phase that we're talking about today?
The request that we have.
These numbers that you just gave us, the 2016 numbers, that was for the entire site, right?
Yes, right, as it is right now, because in 2025, January, remember, we added another 64 acres to the development. When we added that, when the applicant added the additional 64 acres, which gets you the total 202 acres for this MUPD, they didn't increase the square footage. The master plan was still 2,020,000 square feet.
Okay, so the entire master plan for the 200-plus acres, even with the additional 60 that was added in 25, is
2,020,000 square feet.
2,020,000. And with 600, you said that's not specified.
Not specified, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. There are no further lights. Please continue.
Then we will turn it back over to Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. Because we were just referencing the 2016 approval, I do want to add that as part of my analysis, I did go back and look at that. And back in 2016, a data center, as Ms. Hernandez indicated, was contemplated for this site. I want to quote a portion of that staff report from 2016. Quote, according to the applicant's agents, the intent of the proposed changes is to allow for the development of an employment center on the site to include a large-scale data center. These are centralized computer storehouses that provide information technology infrastructure for single or multiple commercial or government clients, end quote. That's taken directly from the 2016 staff report. Okay, made eye contact. I just wanted to make sure that you were good. All right. In addition, as part of my analysis, I know that there were some questions there were some questions regarding the data and information processing use, and is this light industrial versus heavy industrial?
One moment, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. Thank you. Before you go any further, I pulled up the 2016 master plan, and I just want to be clear, and I want to make sure I'm correct here. The master plan for 2016, it shows that the proposed data center square footage is considered light industrial and is limited to a maximum of 206,000 square feet, and that was from 2016. That's the approved master plan that's currently online. Am I right?
I'm sorry?
I don't see other uses. I see 2,020,000 square feet, but specifically for the data center on the approved master plan, the proposed data center square footage is considered a light industrial use and is limited from the approved master plan that's online. and is limited to a maximum of 206,000 square feet, but it says pursuant to ordinance 2024, and it doesn't, I guess the ordinance wasn't approved yet when this was put online. Am I correct, Ernie?
Yes, Commissioner Powell, Ernie Cox again. The original 2016 master plan, the 2,020,000 square feet was allocated differently, and 1.2 million square feet of that was the light industrial data and information processing. In the 2021 master plan, the allocations were different. So I think you might be looking at the 2021.
Okay, and the last stamp on it shows date approved for, I don't know if it was a, it supersedes exhibit number 15, so it's stamped approved April 24th, 2025, so maybe that petition,
That's the
particular plan
2025
wasn't
allocation.
updated?
Yes, it was updated. And that's when, what's on that is the 1.2 million square foot warehouse, the 206,000 square foot data and information processing, and then 614,000 square feet for a future phase, not allocated. That's what Wendy said a minute ago.
I don't see that. Okay. I have it in front of me, that's fine.
Okay, please continue.
Thank you. So when we look at the use, I know that there were questions whether this is a light industrial use or a heavy industrial use. When I did my analysis, I focused on the ULDC and the current approvals and interpretations, and I do agree that a data and information processing use is a light industrial use and consistent with the EDC. In my professional opinion, this is not a heavy industrial use. What is there today is heavy industrial. Mr. Cox showed you an aerial of the site. Those operations are heavy industrial. These light industrial uses will ultimately replace those. Table 4B5A in Article 4 of the ULDC outlines the differences between light and heavy industrial uses. This data and information processing is listed under light industrial. Similar uses in the light industrial include warehouses, research and development, medical and dental labs, whereas heavy industrial are distribution facilities, salvage and junkyards, recycling plants. These typically have outdoor uses in heavy traffic. Our site doesn't have either one of those. When we looked further beyond the ULDC and looked at national standards, planners will look at a couple of different agencies. The first being our National Planning Association, the APA. They provide guidance, as does...
One moment. Commissioner Sachs has a question.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to interrupt you, but let's go back to your opinion as to, data center in 2016 was 4. Could you give us the land uses, since this is your expertise? What were the land uses for a light industrial data center that was approved in 2016?
EDC.
All right, tell me what EEC, I'm not an expert, just.
Employment Development Center.
Employment Development Center. What does that mean?
Economic.
What is an employment development center? Is that like career counseling?
No, it's not like...
What
career
is it?
counseling.
I
Tell
believe
us.
it's actually economic. Is it
I'm
not?
sorry, Economic Development Center.
An economic
Yes.
development, not an employment?
Correct.
Okay. So would that be like, give me some examples of uses for light industrial data center that was approved on this site in 2016?
Can you rephrase that question, please?
Okay. What are the uses in a data center specific to this, to your application today, that were acceptable at that site in 2016?
The square footage, the uses?
No. What are you doing in a data center that was approved in 2016? Come here, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're the expert in this. You gave us an opinion.
I did.
You give us a professional opinion as to the uses
I was
of light
not-
industrial. That way you can hear what I'm asking. Of light industrial and heavy industrial. So what are the uses that are permitted for that particular data center in 2016. And if you don't know, that's fine. Say,
I was
don't
not
know.
part of the application in 2016, so I can't speak to what was discussed as part of that application.
Okay, but there are legal zoning classifications for
Correct.
data centers.
And that was light industrial at the time.
And so what are the uses, if you know, in that data center in 2016?
Information processing, storage, things like that.
Okay, information, could that be a call center?
In our proposed data center?
No, not, I'm just asking as an expert, you gave an expert opinion. What are the uses of that data center in 2016 that we approved in the county? If you don't know, you
I
don't
don't know.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. It's all right.
Actually, I have a follow-up on this slide. Is this today, or was this relevant in 2016?
This
Or
is
both?
today. I looked at this based on today. I did not go back to the 2016 approval.
This is today.
This is today's classifications.
Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I don't see the use that you're applying for on that list. Am I missing it?
Yes.
Where?
So there's two different classifications. The first one is the Federal Industry Classification, or NAICS, which is the NAICS. They have different industries where they categorize businesses within. They have a very explicit warehouse, heavy industrial type classification, and you'll see they have an information industry section. They categorize computing infrastructure providers, data processing, web hosting, and related services under the information, and not the heavy industrial warehouse type uses. Those fall under the information sector, consistent with the light industrial in the ULDC. The second on the right is the APA. That's the national organization that planners refer to often. They have a land-based classification system in which they actually break it up between light industrial and heavy industrial. And computer data centers fall under light industrial with the national planning guidance.
Okay, but this is not exactly data center. This is something new. This is why we're all here today. This is an AI hyperscale, whatever. The state of Florida actually had just given, what is it, SB 484, anything above 50 megawatts, anything, they put a couple of parameters so that everybody can start defining what this actually is. And I don't see that on that list.
They did not list things like megawatts, and they don't drill down into the specificity of AI
Who's
hyperscale.
they?
These publications.
Okay, but yeah, I'm struggling with this because if I'm not seeing that category listed, the category you're applying for listed on this professional literature.
So the category is in your code. So your code uses the phrase data and information processing. The statute, which we'd actually meet anyway, but the statute defines what the statute wants to define. The national standard looks at the generality, right? What kinds of things happen. So you don't see data information processing. There's no terminology specifically to hyperscale or AI because the way the question is what's processing. What it's processing is different than that it's processing. So if you're processing information for AI or you're processing information for, and I'm going to, Commissioner Weiss is a technology guy, so I'm trying to simplify this, but the processing is processing. So they don't have a chip type or a specific user type that comes because you can't really do that in that context. But the reason the words are somewhat different is because everybody assigns their own words. So when we talk about the code, what Ms. Libis was saying is that she went and looked at this question of light versus heavy is based on impacts, as she said. And so that's where she got the information that was available and utilizing the most current up-to-date available information. But the terminology might be slightly different.
Okay, well, I won't belabor the point. I'll let you finish with your presentation, but it just seems it hasn't been added yet as in maybe it hasn't caught up with the reality. And it's, I mean, are we talking, you know, a Model T Ford was a mode of transportation, and so is a Lamborghini, but we're talking very different, you know, they're not going to mix on the same road together. You know, it's worlds apart. And I'm just wondering, because it's been a question that has been brought to me numerous times, that these two things are not the same. And even here, today, in this professional literature, they don't classify it yet. Is that just because they haven't caught up? Or are they actually trying to tell us, no, they're the same thing?
Right now, as it exists today, they're the same. In terms of what, I mean, this technology is evolving very quickly. I'm by no means an expert on the technology portion, but our standards, our associations, our literature, our policy is continually updating as the technology evolves. But right now, with the literature that we have, this use in light industrial is appropriate. And I understand what you're saying with the hyperscale and the AI. That's not listed explicitly in the literature today.
Okay, well, I will let you continue, but it is a struggle that I have. For one, as a policy board, that are we using old definitions just because they haven't been updated? And that's, we can get there, but I'll let you continue.
There are 8 standards in the ULDC that we have to meet as part of the DOA process. I looked at these 8 standards, as did my teammates, Mr. Verdone, who's also an AIC planner, and Mr. Murray, who's a professional landscape architect. We meet all 8 standards. Given the timing, I'll go through and summarize these standards, but I'm free to answer any questions as they come up. So we've got consistency with the comp plan. As we talked about throughout this hearing, we're not introducing any new uses. We continue to remain consistent and comply with comp plan language. We are within the traffic equivalency allowance for this use, so we are consistent with the comprehensive plan. We are consistent with the code. We've had discussion on that. Data and information processing is in light industrial. It is my professional opinion that is the appropriate location for this. It is compatible with the surrounding uses. This has been reviewed multiple times. It was reviewed when it was first approved. I know Mr. Cox went through that history, as did Mr. Seymour. It was reviewed again when Arden was amended in 2020 and 2021. And as Mr. Cox showed you earlier in the presentation, there is significant separation between the proposed use and our neighbors. And there's been conditions of approval that have been placed on the property that relate to lighting, noise, buffering, and separation of uses. The design also is not going to have an adverse impact on the surrounding communities, nor an environmental impact. The site is currently a rock mine, an FPL laydown yard, asphalt and concrete plant. There's no environmentally sensitive lands on site. There's virtually no landscaping on site, and there's no environmental conditions that would be adverse to this request. In terms of development patterns, this is a logical, orderly, and timely development pattern. This was determined years ago. This has been before you several times. Like I said earlier, in 2016, this was approved as a large-scale data center. It maintains compatibility with the corridor. The site is essentially at the western edge of development in the county. The location means there's going to be minimal impact on even future development, future residential development out there. It does not require the removal of any agricultural land. It fronts Southern Boulevard, and it's adjacent to a power plant. The only development actually west of the property is the power plant, and that's important because it provides power to the site consistent with the FPL rules. And it's important to note this is the largest natural gas plant in North America, the one directly west of the site. And we're going to be replacing heavy industrial uses that exist on the site with light industrial. There's adequate public facilities. This was reviewed by the experts and your staff. Mr. Ritchie spoke on water use earlier, and all public facilities have determined there's adequate needs to support this use. And then lastly, change conditions and circumstances. Since this came before you, 2016, we've added square footage, about just under 65 acres. And this land area was added to the master plan. Like we spoke about earlier, what this allowed us to do is have a greater flexibility in design. It allows us to enhance compatibility on the site. And a lot of the conditions that are within this resolution are because of this additional land area, because we could have more flexibility in design. There have been upgrades to the electrical grid since the original approval that have facilitated this request, and FPL has a tariff approved to ensure that we will not impact ratepayers. Any questions?
Did you have a question, Commissioner Marino?
Yeah, could you say that again, what you just said about FP&L? They have a rate tariff?
Yes, there is, FPL has a tariff that's been approved, and this ensures that there will be no impact to ratepayers.
I actually had some FPL questions. Should I ask them now or ask them later? How much longer is your presentation?
We have another expert that's going to come up. Three more.
So
I've
think some-
allotted you 20 extra minutes, so.
I know, and we've answered a ton of the questions, and I'm trying really hard. The noise has been much discussion, and to your point, Vice Mayor, the what is this and what isn't it? Well, one of those things is that people are talking about is noise. So we do want those experts to come on, and then we have a public health expert. FPL, I think, is probably somewhere in the room. We could get there.
FPL is in the room, but they
Okay, I'll ask
could
the
speak
question later.
after.
So they can ask later if you
After
want to
yours.
ask them, but Mark starts, yes. So we'll call upon our experts. I'm asking if you guys, I know there's a lot, it's very technical, but if you can do it as quickly as possible, there will probably be questions, but we'll see.
Forward, okay. Good morning, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Mark Bastash. I am a board certified by the Institute of Noise Control Engineering USA. I'm an acoustical specialist with more than 28 years of experience in industrial noise measurement, modeling, and noise control. My experience includes noise and vibration impact assessments, low-frequency sound analysis, regulatory compliance, and the acoustical design of facilities with complex cooling and power systems. I participate in both American and international standards development. Domestically, I participate in the American National Standards Institute standards development organizations such as the Acoustical Society of America, including as a work group leader. Internationally, I have served as a United States representative to the International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC, and the International Organization for Standards, ISO, standards development working groups, including on the ISO working group, which updated the ISO standard for sound propagation outdoors, which was published in 2024. This standard is the basis of the acoustical modeling of this project, and this standard is used worldwide. I've reviewed the county regulations to determine potential impacts from the data center. The regulations are based on the A-weighted decibels, which is the most common regulatory metric as it mimics the response of the human ear to typical sounds and the respective loudness or volume of those sounds. Decibel levels can be a cause of confusion, in part because they are logarithmic, and logarithmic math is not normal math. 50 plus 50 does not equal 100. What you see on the screen is a chart from the Florida Department of Transportation that provides examples of typical decibel levels. A normal conversation between two people standing 3 feet away is around 60 to 65 decibels, while a library or theater is typically on the order of 30 to 40 decibels. There are other decibel metrics that may be used. One of those is dBc, which can be used as an indicator of low frequency noise or sounds. Because we have a world-leading expert on low frequency and dBc, Dr. Bronner, I'm going to skip that at this time. I am going to discuss the dBA levels that were measured in the vicinity, as well as the acoustic modeling of the proposed data center that is detailed on the informational site plan. At the December 10th meeting, there was a point made about measuring current noise levels or ambient sound levels at every 400 feet. We collected data on existing sound levels which were captured at numerous locations. This includes day, evening, and nighttime measurements at 400-foot intervals just west of Arden, as well as measurements in the wildlife refuge.
These measurement locations are depicted on what is shown on the screen now. This is not a rural area with no nearby developments, as has been discussed. Rather, there are many sources of existing sound or noise in the area, including the 3,800 megawatt combined cycle power plant with cooling towers, a 6-lane highway speed roadway to the south, an asphalt plant, a rock mine and aggregate processing facility, in addition to a large pump station. The existing sound level trends are consistent with those existing uses. The sound levels near Southern Boulevard, including the school, are dominated by traffic, while further north, the other sources also contribute to the existing levels. Graphs of the sound levels at continuous monitoring locations are presented in the report, while the sound levels at the locations requested by the county are presented in this figure. In general, the existing sound levels fluctuate around 50 dBA. In addition to the existing monitoring, a three-dimensional acoustical model of the proposed facility was developed. The equipment manufacturers provided sound power levels for the dry coolers and the air-cooled chillers. The project will employ low-noise, aeroacoustically optimized dry cooler fan cooling units. There are only a few chillers, and they are also, or a few air-cooled chillers, and they are also incorporating low noise features. Otherwise, other sources are located indoors inside the concrete insulated structure that Ernie referred to. The sound power level is an acoustic characteristic.
One moment, Commissioner Flores.
Remember, you got to dumb this down a little bit.
Sure.
In your original chart, when you said the levels, is a higher number, louder number? Is louder the higher the number, or is it the lower?
Higher would be louder.
Louder, okay. Thank you.
Yes. So the sound power level is an acoustic characteristic of the source, which determines how sound will propagate or travel. The octoband sound power levels and quantities were identified, as you can see here, which is in our report that was submitted in April. Using this data, I then prepared what would be described as a predictive model, the method to calculate the potential noise that could be generated from the data center use. The International Organization of Standards ISO 9613-2 standard for sound propagation outdoors uses these equipment sound power levels to calculate the resulting sound pressure level from each source at each prediction point. This is the standard on which I sat on the International Committee to update. This is a standard modeling method and protocol that an acoustical professional could have used along with the sound power levels and information in the report to reproduce or evaluate the results. The ISO 9613-2 methodology that was used is based on what's called a downwind propagation. This means it assumes the wind is blowing from each sound generating source to each receiver. What this means is the model assumes the wind is blowing from the data center towards Arden or the school. But for the majority of the year, that does not occur. As a result, the model is viewed as conservative. Distance is the primary attenuating mechanism, which is why the primary sound sources are located on the western side of the site. Atmospheric absorption, when applicable, barrier effects such as for the transformers, which are located behind a barrier wall, or the air-cooled chillers, which are located behind the buildings themselves, will result in additional sound reductions. All these calculations are set forth in the ISO 9613-2 standard in the report that we prepared and submitted to the county months ago. The results are presented as sound contours, which are shown on the screen now. This shows that the 45 dBA or less at the western edge of Arden and the school. Again, that is similar in level and sound to what you would hear in a normal business office, which you saw on the Florida Department of Transportation chart at the beginning of my presentation. When considering all the factors previously discussed, the sound generated from the future development at the property line are less than allowed by the county code. In addition, the predicted levels are within the range of the documented existing levels. Thus, the sound of the facility will not adversely change the existing soundscape at Arden or the school. As I mentioned, because Dr. Bronner is one of the world's leading experts on low-frequency noise, and it is a subspecialty of acoustics, I would like to turn it over to him to discuss low-frequency noise.
Morning, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Norm Broner. I'm an acoustic consultant. I'm a professional engineer registered in Australia. I'm a fellow with the Institution of Engineers in Australia. I'm a fellow of the Australian Acoustical Society. I worked on the issues of low-frequency noise all over the world. I'm an expert with over 50 years' experience in this area. Acoustics, noise and vibration, particularly with low-frequency noise. I'm also a member of a number of Australian standards committees. I've been studying the effects of low-frequency noise ever since 1973, and I did my PhD specifically on the issue of annoyance due to low-frequency noise. My research has helped internationally to shape internationally recognised low-frequency noise assessment criteria. The C-weighted criteria that Mark mentioned, I've used to develop a criterion which was published in 2010 and which has been adopted by many authorities throughout the world. I've applied this particular criterion to the case at hand, and I've also used a secondary analysis of the C-weighted level, which is one form of measurement, and the A-weighted level, which Mark referred to come up and confirm my conclusions. Low-frequency noise is generally audible, but it can be misunderstood in terms of its potential. We're actually all subject to low-frequency noise continuously. Right now in this room, we're subject to low-frequency noise from the air conditioning system. It's very common. You actually have low-frequency noise being generated by your refrigerator at home. It's important to remember that when discussing low-frequency noise, it exists around us all the time. Now, I've actually been to site, and I did a low-frequency noise analysis of this proposed data centre. As has been indicated, low-frequency noise can be described by the C-weighted measurement, and the number that you receive when you do the measurement on the sound level meter, it's a number, let's say 50 decibels dBc, as opposed to a number which is dBA. We can go into that if you want to discuss that. Mark earlier referred to the A-weighted numbers that were measured on site. Now, I've studied the noise levels that were measured on site in terms of the A and the C, and also as a result made an assessment about what would be, and also compared that with the predicted noise levels, both in terms of A and C, and then made an assessment in terms of the future use. Mr. Bastash is a renowned acoustics consultant and did an excellent study in terms of the prediction. Now, this particular data centre is a little different from many others, in particularly some of them have been as close as 150 feet from residential areas. This one, as you know, is sited approximately half a mile away. And as it has been mentioned, a lot of the equipment is placed either inside the building or to the west of the building, and that not only affects the A-weighted level in terms of reducing the A-weighted level to the east, it also affects the C-weighted level. So both the A and the C are reduced by being either internally in the building or to the west. So the ambient noise level information that was measured by Mr. Bastash was very important in my arriving at the conclusion. As I said before, the prediction method that Mr. Bastash used is internationally recognised, and I think, as he said, any acoustic consultant could take the information that was available in that report that he produced and would come up with a similar prediction. Now,
One moment, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you for your presentation. It's a very detailed presentation with regard to sound. I'm learning a lot about sound. But I've got a question. For clarity, you spoke about low frequency and you spoke about refrigerators in your home. And I would equate that probably to your air conditioning units as well. Can you compare, for me, because the level of detail that you're providing is really interesting. However, for me, the normal person who wants to just understand low frequency vibration or low frequency sound, can you compare what would potentially be put off by the data center or the data and information processing use and your refrigerator at home or your air conditioning unit or any number of low frequency sounds that are in your daily life? Can you give me that comparison?
okay, so I guess probably in terms of level, is that really what you're trying to get at?
Yes, and specifically, if I lived in one of the neighborhoods, or if I was at the school near Arden,
Right.
What can you compare that to the normal sound of hearing the air conditioning units run at the school, or will I hear it? Will it impact me? Will I not hear it? Will it be inconsequential? Will it not exist? Because people have been concerned about the vibrations and the sounds.
It will exist, but whether you actually perceive it or not, generally at the sorts of levels that we're talking about, it won't be particularly perceptible. And for example, when you hear trucks going by near the school, then there is a lot of low frequency noise generated by them. That's more of the, maybe call it rumble. When you hear the brakes going off, and that creates low frequency noise, that's a lot louder in terms of level than would be coming off the data center. The predicted level of the data center is about mid-55 dBc. You can actually see it on this slide here. This is for the location of the school, and the predicted level in terms of A was 44, but the predicted dBc was 56. Now, right now, at the school, if you look at the measurement locations, M4, M3, a number of measurements, what you see there is the actual level, currently the ambient sound level at that location. And you see it varies from 63 up to 76. So if you were out in the school playground, you'd be exposed to that sort of level. And what we're talking about from the centre is less than that. In terms of, for example, air conditioning, the level of an air conditioning probably in here right now would be, in terms of dBc, 50, 55 could easily be that. So it would be similar in terms of the predicted level for the low frequency noise.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
So noise is a point of contention in this particular project. Is there any side effects to low frequency noise?
At the levels we're talking about, no.
is there any side effects to low-frequency noise?
So I say, at the levels that we're
No,
talking.
no, that's not my question. My question is an open-ended question, not specific to this levels that you're
Well-
talking about. My question is specific in broader terms. Is there any side effects to low-frequency noise?
If you have a very high level of low-frequency noise, significantly more than we're talking about, then there could be a side effect.
Okay. There could be, right? And what would be some of those side effects?
What would they be? You might feel all right, let's talk about a disco. Because at a disco, you get a very high level of bass.
I know, but I only go to disco for like 1, 2, 3 hours. I get tired. This is 24/7,
No, but
right?
I'm trying to make the point, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's a high level of low frequency sound, and you get a feeling of sensation in your chest. Okay? Now, that actually won't necessarily have any impact on you in terms of your health, but it's an effect that would happen at a high level of low frequency sound. So, I'm not sure, would you like to ask further?
No, I wanted to make sure, or I wanted to know if there were some side effects too, and it sounds like there is.
Well, yeah, but it's really important to understand that the effects don't happen, do happen at high levels. And it's highly dependent on the level of the low frequency noise as to what the impact will be. And so therefore...
Would you be able to replicate that low frequency noise right now? Would you be able to give us an example or a demo right now? Is there something that you can play that we could hear what that is?
No, but what I'm talking about right now right here in this room, I'm telling you that the level of low frequency noise that we're experiencing in terms of the C-weighted level is 55 maybe. And then, but at a disco...
What we're experiencing right now is
Right
about
now.
55.
Yeah.
And what is...
And in a disco, it would probably be 100, 110.
So right now we're experiencing 55.
Yeah.
What would it be if I was the closest home to the project?
So we're saying that the closest home it's in the report, I don't remember, but it's probably 55.
So
maybe
you're saying
more,
this...
maybe less.
Basically what we're experiencing right now is what that neighbor is going to experience.
Yes.
And are we saying when everybody's quiet, or when we're speaking? When is that 55 level?
It's all the time.
All the time, just...
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk to the previous expert. I forgot your name. I apologize. Mark? You had the map.
Don't go too far, though. I have a question for you. Go ahead.
Could we go back a few slides to the map where we had the 40 dBA? Right there. Perfect. So as I'm looking at that's far. Is there any, perfect. Our public affairs team is on point. We have, I'm seeing here, we have, as we get to the neighbors, we have about a 45 to a 40 dBA. Is that what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any way that you can replicate that here? I want to hear what that sounds like. No, sir. I'm asking the experts.
I can't do it here now. It is challenging to kind of replicate in an environment.
Could you bring that back after lunch at 1?
No.
Or whenever. I'm sorry. I put an hour out there. I don't even know when we're going to lunch. But I'm just saying after lunch. Could you get me something that resembles what these people are going to experience?
We can look at what the existing sound level is here in the room, and then maybe...
But it's different because here we're speaking, it goes quiet, it goes back up.
Right.
So this is a steady sound, or whatever it's going to be, that they're going to experience. I'm asking you, can you replicate that here right now for us within the next few hours?
Not readily. What we could do is assess the current environment, perhaps at lunch or when everybody's quiet, and try to give that as a point of comparison in terms of very similar to the other comparisons that you saw based off of the Florida Department of Transportation kind of chart in terms of typical sound levels.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like you can replicate it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sacks, so you're next, but I did have one quick question. Just to verify, you said that this room was at 55. Is that right now, or 55 because we're talking to each other?
No, 59 is what I would call the background when we're not talking. It's just due to the aircon system.
So it's the silence of this room is 55.
Yeah, DBC, yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Sacks?
Thank you. I find your testimony really interesting. You said that back in the 70s, you were experimenting with low-frequency noise. There's a difference between a Bad Bunny sound from a good disco here or frequency. You know, you go into a music and you hear it and, you know, it feels kind of energizing. But when we're talking about low frequency, we're talking about a hum. We're not talking about music. We're talking about a hum that resonates. That has been, I don't know, I've never heard it. I'll say right now, I've never been to one, but it has been reported that there is a hum that comes from the data centers going through their cooling process. Now, is that a hum frequency? Is that what you're describing, sir?
So I would say, for example, that a lot of equipment hums.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's just the general sound that comes off the equipment.
Yes.
When I was doing my research back in 1976.
76, so
Well, I started in 73, but
Okay.
I actually subjected people to different low-frequency sound in 1976 when I was doing my PhD in London. And I had subjects come in and I had played to them different levels of a specific low-frequency type of sound. And we adjusted them up and down and looked at loudness, looked at annoyance, and so I came up, that's sort of where I started to develop my criteria from. So what we're talking about is when you're at a distance away from actually any industry, it doesn't matter what it is, and you're listening to the overall sound that's emanating from that industry, it can be considered often as a hum. And so what we're talking about here as well, if you want to call it hum, is let's put it this way, in the absence of the ambient sound, in other words, if you took away everything that existed outside and there was nothing, just emptiness, and then you would have the data center making its noise, then there would be this hum that you're referring to. But then when the real world happens and you've got all the background noise, the ambient noise that's in the area, the traffic noise when you're close to the school, that fills out the space.
Yes, but I understand that what you're saying is that you can hear the hum on one side. However, if there's trucks and, let's say, you know, cars going by, sort of drowns it out. But let's take a specific example.
Yeah.
Let's take the school, all right?
Yeah.
The school's playground is up against the canal, as you know. You've been there.
Yep.
And so there's not a turnpike, which I have, and I hear the noise, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the school, the playground, the canal, and then on the other side is this project. And what they have noted in scientific journals is it's a hum. It's not a noise. It's a low frequency hum. And I'm using this because you're the expert. And this is what the experts say. Is that low frequency noise, does that in scientific journals have an adverse effect? Has it been shown to have an adverse effect on the health of human beings?
So I understand the question. It's a good question because this is something that very often can be misunderstood. When you have the so-called hum, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's actually all highly related to level. If you have a level which is a lower level, then you can have hum and it will have absolutely no impact at all. If you're very close to a facility which had a very high level and you were exposed to it for a very long time, then, yeah, okay, it might have an impact.
What type
So-
of adverse effects would it have
Well,
on human beings?
So if you're exposed to very high levels, so 100 decibels, for example, and exposed to it for a long time, then you might start to feel uncomfortable. If it was like a disco type of sound affecting your chest cavity.
Could it affect your chest cavity?
Well, there's a resonance sometimes when it starts to, I mean, that's what people like when they go to a disco.
No, I'm not talking about a disco.
No, but I'm trying.
I know, but I'm talking, you
No,
keep
but-
wanting to go to the disco.
Well,
Let's go back.
But I'm trying to
Let's go back to
explain-
that little school there that it's not a disco. You've been there, so you know, there's no turnpike there.
No, but
Yeah,
I'm trying,
I want to know what adverse effects it would have
I'm
on
trying to
human beings.
explain that at the very low levels that we're talking about, there will not be an adverse impact.
So give me a number that would be a low enough number. I hope I'm not shouting.
That's fine.
So
Yeah.
that would not have an adverse effect on anybody.
Well, okay, so right now, as I come back to we are exposed to 55 dBc.
Now, I'm talking about the hum. I'm not talking about,
It's part of, the hum is part of what we're experiencing.
I don't hear a hum right here.
Okay.
I hear the beauty of my own voice. It's amazing. But you know what I'm talking about. And let's get right, let's not dance. Let's get right down to the hum of the project that would be next to the school. And you're saying if it's low enough, it would not have an effect.
Well,
And that would be what, 35? You tell me.
No, it can be as high as 60, 65.
65, would that number, as low as 65 or as high as 65, would not have any adverse effect on human beings? Okay. And one last question. Have you visited other projects like the one that is being requested today?
Sorry, you mean have I visited other data centers?
Yes, sir.
No, I have not.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. No, none of that. Thank you. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. Can I call you, is it Dr. Bronner?
Yeah, Bronner. Yeah.
Bronner, thank you. Love Australia, by the way. Excellent country. You guys done very well down under. So my question's really, since we have your expertise here, I'd like to ask you a couple things, and that is, so the current county code does not contemplate DBC. It contemplates DBA. And we protect our, adjacent property owners, whether we have light industrial is, to keep the neighbors from, being impacted by operations or whatever's going on the adjacent neighbor. So as an expert on low-level frequency, when you're, and this is something we're going through right now, is to try and understand our current noise code is in dBA. What would we measure or what would we set our levels at? For example, in our code, dBA is 65 dBA during the day, up until the early evening, and then in the override hours, it drops down to 55, right, dBA. For this discussion on DBC, what would be permissible levels?
Okay, so that is the paper that I published in 2010.
I did not read it.
No, I'm sorry, which has been adopted, and it's actually referred to. I included it in the report that we submitted. So the levels are recommended at 70 to 75 dBc during the day and 65 for dBc at night.
So and this is just, reading that I've done, is that communities are imposing 55 dBc 24/7.
55 dBc or dBA?
dBc 24/7, and this is what I'm seeing being contemplated for specifically for data centers.
Well, 55 dBc for the daytime is nearly an impossibility. Because generally, if we walked outside, I mean, first of all, as I say, inside here, we're probably being exposed to 55 dBc. And if you walk outside on the road, it'll be higher than that.
Right.
So to say that you want to have industry produce less than 55 dBc during the day, for example, that's a very significant
Well, I think the difference,
restriction.
when we're talking about industry, right? Normally, industry doesn't operate 24/7.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's, I think that's the issue. You want to protect people, especially during the hours when most people are sleeping, and you don't want to interfere with their sleep
Well,
pattern.
that's why my criteria have to daytime and nighttime. And based on my experience, those are the numbers that I recommended.
So you believe that 65 dBc at somebody's property line would be imperceptible?
No, I didn't say it would be imperceptible. It is a level at which there will not be any annoyance generated.
Well, there's annoyance generated all the time to me, but that's different, something different. But, okay, so so I've got your answer. I'm not an expert on this, but you are. You've got a PhD, so I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll just...
One moment, I did have a question.
Oh, and one other thing before I go.
Okay.
I need to update my disclosure. Also met with Howard Richmond, Drew Martin, and Nathan Galong.
Okay, is that updated for the clerk? Oh, you'll submit the disclosures. My question, and it might not be for you, it's more of you said you had a health and human expert? Because my question is there a difference between, there's sound, you even mentioned the disco, versus silence. Is there a difference for human health when it's steady, it's the constant, even if it's lower, is there a difference for humans if they're never getting the actual break for silence?
So Dr. Olson can talk about that. I'm going to have an answer, by the way, for Commissioner Flores on his question earlier as well, I think.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioners, again, Dr. Chris Olson. Sound is, the level, if it was just steady state across the board, sound is sound, regardless of what it's coming from and the like. Where things do get more complicated is intermittent sounds versus steady state sounds. So as individuals, if you're exposed to it, if you think of, there are many industries, right, that operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's, you think about your air conditioner, for example, right? Your air conditioner is going to come on and off. And you're not going to want to, you're not going to want to have your air conditioner right beside your deck and have it come on while you're on the deck, annoy you for a little bit, and then go off, and then it's fine and coming on and off. That is a different type of noise that we don't adapt to. When we're looking at the levels from the data center, when you look at what Dr. Brodder has up here, this is predicting that would be the sound 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the course of the 20-30-year history or life of the project. This also, what we should point out, and I think Mr. Bastash said, is this assumes worst-case wind conditions where the wind's always going to be blowing from the data center area towards Arden and the school. This is clearly not the case. As you folks know better than I do, being here in West Palm, the wind comes predominantly from the ocean east to west, right? So these would be the worst-case levels. If you look at that level that Dr. Brodder has up there on the DBC, right? So that is measuring, what that overall low-frequency noise would be at the school. The predicted's 56. The average ambient at the school during the daytime is 68. The kids right now are out there playing, they're having a good, this is outside the school, outside playing, they're having a good time, they're not being impacted by those levels. It's dominated by, if you think about the highway, right? So the highway, when you ask about, intermittent noise versus steady state noise, there's always that kind of low rumble from the highway when you're standing out there, or Southern Boulevard as you're standing out there. But then every once in a while, one of the truck's brakes kicks in, or they're gearing up or revving up, and that's kind of that intermittent. You can pick that out quite clearly from just the low rumble, right? But even at those levels, the kids are not being adversely impacted. In addition to that, and how do we know that, and back to some of the questions about, how high is too high? We're talking about DBC. The true health effect of DBC, or low frequency noise measured on the DBC scale, is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 120 to about 140 DBC. Okay, and what happens then is it starts perforating eardrums. Things are not going, things are not going well for you from a health perspective there. It's well above a level that we're ever going to be exposed to in our daily lives. For the kids at the school, this is outside of that DBC. There is what's called an ANSI standard, American National Standards Institute standard, for what kind of levels we should have inside schools for both the DBA and the DBC. And what we're seeing here is we're meeting all of that. So from
One moment. Commissioner Sachs, you had a question?
I'm waiting for, I think he's answering.
All right, Commissioner Weiss?
Yeah,
are you
I'm
good
waiting
to let him
for you
finish?
to get your answer.
I'm waiting for you to get your answer.
Okay.
Okay, so effectively what we've got here is these are the levels that are outside of the school, and then, of course, that's a brand-new school, beautifully built to hurricane standards, especially in this area of the world in Florida, right? And so the level attenuates, certainly for the DBA, or the A-weighted, that's how we normal, that 44 predicted outside is going to be like 25 inside. They're not going to hear the data center. For the low frequency noise, it attenuates, the standard is lower than that. So ultimately what we're looking at, overall, sound can cause health problems. That's why you folks have an ordinance and a code in place. That's why on the DBA side, and I firmly agree with Dr. Bronner, when you look at what that level should be for DBC, it's typically 15 to 20 times greater than what we have for DBA. That's just how it works, and Dr. Bronner's going to get in a little bit of the subtraction stuff here in a bit. Dr. Bronner's standard's been used around the world. It's what ensures protection of both annoyance, so we don't take annoyance on it. What we mean is we don't want the community hearing, and Madam Commissioner, the hum, that they don't want to hear that we have data centers built across this country that are quite frankly probably too close to people's homes, 150 feet to their backyard. That hum, that perception of hum, it is like having your air conditioner outside your house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That would be unacceptable. When you look at this data center with the separation and the setback, when you look at your county ordinance with the 50 decibels nighttime, we're really, Dr. McCuddy will speak to this after from the physician side. We're trying to protect health and sleep. That's why your 50 decibel ordinance at nighttime for the DBA is appropriate. Commissioner, you were asking about other counties.
Actually, sir, I don't, maybe I wasn't clear with my question, but it was more the difference for humans when it's a very fluctuating pattern where you get complete silence and like maybe your ears kind of heal. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but if there's never the point where that's not there, is there harm in that? Because if, sometimes you go somewhere where it's completely silent, or even my own home, like I live close to I-95, depending, sometimes I can hear that traffic, and it's kind of a roar throughout the day just because of wind conditions. And then other days it's very, very silent. So is it better for humans to go from having real silence to ambient noise versus just this constant? Do they sort of go deaf to it, or what happens?
So partially there's adaptation to it, Commissioner. The short answer is that no, there does not need to be complete silence and then having intermittent. What happens is, if you think about it, if you live near I-95, right, there are going to be times where there's going to be a very loud truck going by in the middle of the night on I-95, and perhaps that wakes you. That's the stuff we're trying to avoid, and that's what we're doing with the standards here. And it's making sure that there isn't an intermittent spike that is outside of the typical soundscape. We're going to be within this typical soundscape. Levels from the data center into our note be about the typical soundscape that are already there. So we're not going to be changing the sound environment.
So,
Okay.
Barring other questions, I know we answered a lot, and we went way past I even contemplated. The bottom line of all of that, and I think I just asked Dr. Bronner the simple question, is there such a thing as absolute silence? And he said no. And that's kind of the point I think that Dr. Olson was making, that there's always something, and while it sounds like it's high, because you're talking about the numbers of 55, it's equivalent to like what you were already experiencing. To Commissioner Flores, I also asked Mr. Bastich a question of the replicating. Replicating sound is almost impossible, but he has actually been back there measuring the sound as we've gone through, and he can give you ranges if you wanted, or we can try to do some of that. Theoretically, if we could get this entire room silent, even me, that we might be able to get sort of what the ambient is in complete silence here to measure, which is why I just did that, because he's measuring. And we can answer it that way, but the replication is where I think that confusion came in. If you'd like us, we can try that, but I think, and I do have, by the way, another public health expert who teaches at MIT and Harvard, and he's brilliant, but if you have more public health questions, his report is in the record. It finds that there's no adverse public health impact. It finds that there is no adverse impact to student learning. He's worked on that. His expertise is in there. If you really want to get into that, you can. But otherwise, I'd rather just sort of, we've gone through a lot of this. I understand the confusion, and I think to some degree, Vice Mayor, it goes back to your fundamental question. Technology 2016, what was inside the buildings, technology today, what's inside the buildings. What technology will be there tomorrow, next year, or 5 years from now after the buildings are built? Those questions are not perfectly answerable, right? We know that. But we do know what generates the noise associated with data centers, and that's why we brought these world-renowned experts in. That's why we didn't just stop at the noise experts, but brought in, like Dr. Olson and Dr. McCunny, it's like Bunny, Dr. McCunny, the world-renowned health expert, because we care about that. And we know it's confusing, obviously. We know that it's complicated. But what you can measure is not what chip is inside a building, but what might occur as a result. And again, we're not asking you to just believe what they said today. We're telling you by condition of approval that we are going to measure before this operation would start, before the construction, and we are going to measure after what actually occurs to prove up the C-weighted and A-weighted measures. And it's, again, the science is very complicated, I get, but that's what they do. It requires somebody who has that expertise. Your staff will have that to review. They can hire someone with the expertise as well. Like that, it's a big deal because that's all you can do. I could stand here all day long and tell you as a lawyer, we have a permitted use, it's data information processing. Would have been a very short presentation. We didn't do that. We're not asking to do that. What we're saying is we're putting our money where our mouth is. We've done the work because we know not every question can be perfectly answered, right? And so we're putting those conditions on the table and we're agreeing to those conditions on this phase 2 site for just that reason. And so I know it's late. I do appreciate all the time and the questions. I assume there will be more as time comes and we're not going anywhere.
Okay, so we do have 2 lights still on. Are they for the applicant? That concludes your presentation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we do have Commissioner Sachs and Weiss.
Yeah, I want to go back to the sound. I want to understand, is there a collective impact? So if you have your ambient noise and you then start producing another level of noise or sound, it's not noise, it's sound, do they join and how does?
So I asked that question.
Great question then.
So, because and you might, what seems like hours ago, Mr. Bastich talked about logarithmic versus numerical.
I understand.
Right? The answer is no. It doesn't merge in that way that it makes it louder.
Okay.
And that's some of what the science shows and that's in the report. That's why there's the difference between, for instance, standing inside that disco. I don't go to any disco ever. And being outside and having all the ambient noise, or being in this building with the air conditioners running, or whatever it might be. That's what all that sort of relates to.
Commissioner Sachs?
It's great sitting next to Commissioner White. I'm getting all this good scientific data. Thank you, Seymour. You're doing a great job. You've got some good experts. But I don't think that what people and what the scientific research is discussing is noise or disco noise. It talks about a vibration hum that is particular and individualized to the cooling systems in a data center. So when you come back, and hopefully you will after lunch, and you give to Commissioner Flores a sound, can we not get the sound from another data center that has that low frequency sound that causes adverse health effects, or so it is noted? And there is data, or there are data that subscribes to it. So I'm not talking about, I'm sorry you've never been to a disco, but.
I didn't say I've never been. I don't go anymore. I'm too old for that.
No comment. Okay. However, if you're going to replicate a noise level that we are discussing today for your particular application, can we not get a recording of the hum that people discuss and complain about at a data center?
No, because,
Okay, okay.
actually, yes, we can what they complain about. What we can't get you is what would actually occur here. So you may remember when we were.
Well, that's okay. So, in other words, what you're saying today,
like to
on the record, just a second, is that all the other data centers have hums that do, according to the United Nations and other things, say that it causes adverse health effects. But that's not going to happen here, because here there's not going to be any noise.
So here's.
Is that what we're discussing today?
Nobody in the world discusses that.
Okay,
Not
so
today
there
and not
will be a
anywhere. But I'd
noise
like to explain to you the difference.
Just 1 second. Let me finish. There will be a noise emanating from this particular Project Tango.
The same noise you just heard.
I disagree, sir.
Well, I'm not the
Because
expert.
well, you're not an expert either, and I'm not an expert, but there's going to be, I don't understand. There's going to be people talking coming out of this data center?
If I can explain, I need more than a sentence, Commissioner. I know it's complicated, but the point
No,
I'm
it's
making.
not complicated. You just said there will not be any noise emanating from this particular project.
In fact,
Go ahead and
I
explain.
did not say that in any way, shape, or form, nor has anyone else. What you asked was whether there is a data center we can use as an example, not of what's here, because what you may be reading, and I don't know what you've independently read, but these experts have read it all. But what you may have been reading is about a data center that has, for instance, the diesel generators that come with what Mr. Davids talked about earlier, the old school evaporation systems that required all that generated significantly more noise.
Let's cut it to the
They
chase,
may
Mr.
have-
Seymour. I'm not talking about those data centers. What I'm just saying is this. Will there be any noise coming from this data center?
Yes.
Thank you.
It
And
will
what is
not-
that? I'm sorry?
It will not have any, that's every expert who's reviewed has said it will not have any noticeable or adverse effect. But of course, there will always be noise coming from everything that we do. There's
So
no
there-
such thing, as Dr. Bronner explained, as
I know,
perfect
but
silence.
he's never been to a data center. But let's just say this. There will never be a noise that is indicative of a data center throughout this world at the Project Tango.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so let me ask it again. Is there going to be a noise emanating from Project Tango when you're done?
Yes, and it's been
Thank you.
explained what that would be.
Okay, and can you replicate that noise so that we know what we're going to be hearing once this project is built?
So as Mr. Bastich said, noise can't be replicated in that way. It can be measured, and an example can be given, and examples were given.
We have, commissioners asked you for an example. Will you be able to provide that to the Board of County Commissioners?
Again, the examples were provided. A replication was not, but for instance, as Dr. Bronner testified, the background AC, the background noise in here is roughly 55. That's an example. That's why when I stop talking, that's my point.
I'm sorry.
This-
We're not,
if
I'll tell
we
you why
all-
we're not understanding each other. Because all the experts say that there's a certain hum that comes from the processing of a data. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's like standing under high power voltage FP&L lines. There's a certain hum. Are you upset, Mr. Seymour?
I don't know what experts, Commissioner. I've
Okay,
got
now-
experts,
well, I'll get it at the end.
international.
That's okay. But your
I'd be
experts
happy
say-
to have the experts. But again, the hum is at which level? So a general question of hum, and again, this is the frustration. By the way, I've had it because I've had a lot of time with them, so I understand where we're getting. The question of hum is a generalized sort of discussion point, commentary word. What we look at is true sound levels and the DBA and DBC and how the math works and what that would mean. And if you were to pull the studies you looked at and say, here's what that DBC level was at certain places in certain circumstances, I suspect that whether it's Dr. Braun or Mr. Bassers, Dr. Olson, could walk through the differentials of what we would have here. All we have to go on today is the specifics of this, because the design, the separation, the requirements that are being put on this were built into what is being shown to you today, and it isn't another data center. So going to another data center, it may not have all of those design elements. It may not be the same. It's, again, almost a half a mile away. If that's now 150 feet away, as some are, that's a very different noise because the noise propagation diminishes by distance, as you saw in the graphic. So that's why it's hard to answer the question of a specific example without knowing all those details.
Commissioner Flores?
You can't replicate the humming that she's talking about, but you can give us an example of what 40 dBA sounds like. If we are all quiet, could you do that?
So we can measure, if everybody's quiet,
All right, let's do an exercise, everybody. Don't breathe for 60 seconds.
Well, no, I mean,
Don't
people
move.
breathe every day. You could have a wind blowing outside, Commissioner. That's not, but yes, if everybody's just quiet, how long do you need? 10
All right,
seconds? Even I can do that?
Starting on 3, let's take 10 seconds.
I'll tell you what, so I've got what's called an ANSI Type 1 sound level meter and a field calibrator. I calibrated it before the measurement. And what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna start in 3 seconds and I'm gonna do a 10-second measurement and then I'll read you the results. Okay, I stopped it, you can breathe. So during that 10-second period, standing here where this is measuring, it is 43.9 dBA, 59.8 dBc.
Would you mind showing that to the camera?
Where do I go?
Face it this way.
All right, can I
Just
hand
face
it
it
to
this
you,
way.
or?
How do we know where's the camera?
They're looking right at you, so, no, the other way.
Look at this
Looking
one.
at us.
Oh, that's back of my head.
Brian,
Nobody
look up
needs
here.
that.
You'll see where you are.
Can you confirm that number for me? Can somebody confirm that number for me?
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand this to Mr. Rudder.
The top row is what you want to read.
Whatever you want.
Why not? We're getting expert testimony right now. And yes, this is what we do.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, while you're looking, I just want to confirm that's a calibrated piece of equipment, because that's a reasonable question that could be asked.
Yes.
No,
Be quiet.
There will be public comment.
No, he wasn't saying, it was somebody else.
There was a comment from somebody back there.
Okay, I am confirming that it says 43.9. By the way, I don't think I've ever heard this room that quiet before, so. I would like to get Brian Seymour up to the podium again. So you mentioned that you're willing to do
Commissioner Flores, if you don't mind, could you just verify what this piece of equipment is? We just,
Sure, that's a ANSI Type 1 sound level meter. It's a Larson Davis 831.
thank you.
So I'm going to ask one more question. Is that a standard in the industry that is used, and have you calibrated it?
Yes to both.
Okay.
Commissioner Flores?
Well, let me ask that
Sir,
question.
if,
I'm
I
willing
just
to
want,
answer that question.
Brian, can you let me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, if you continue to speak, I'm going to ask for you to be removed. Thank you. Appreciate it. My last question is, you mentioned a condition of approval on sound.
Yes, sir.
Where do I find that language?
The add delete.
Is our staff, is it exhibit C1 or C2? I want to read what the language to this condition of approval is.
Our noise.
Is it on the add delete?
On the add delete.
Okay.
It's in the packet, I just split the conditions apart. But on the add delete, the noise conditions would be in the C1B. C1B.
C1B. I'm looking at architectural review, building,
And it's called
environmental.
noise.
Noise, I see it here. Okay, I'm not gonna waste my time on this right now, but I do want to read it. I mean, maybe I'll come back to it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if that concludes your presentation, we are at 10 after 12. We have staff presentation. Would the board like to go ahead and take a lunch break now? I do believe we will need to take perhaps a second break after. I want to make sure this board is fresh because this is going to be a long day. We want to give it its due diligence. So if everyone's okay, we will break now. I'd like to round it to just 1 o'clock. Is that okay? I would like 1 o'clock. Is that? Okay, fine. 1 hour, 1:15, we will reconvene, and at that point, we will begin with staff presentation.
Yeah, I'd just like the board to know that it's extremely hot outside. So I've been getting messages from staff that what we are offering is that the people that are outside can move over to Vista so that they're in AC.
I thought they did move to Vista. I'm very sorry.
So
Okay.
they're outside, they can move to Vista, and we will sort out the cards and the
Yes.
names and speakers.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sorry.
yes.
I was understanding that they had already moved to Vista, so
Yes.
thank you.